Hey up everybody, welcome back to the Audi Cycling YouTube channel, where today we're going to be taking a look at the Classic Squad Game. This is the one where there's going to be 12 riders as opposed to the Super Classico where there are 6 riders. I'll be making a Super Classico video for Milano Sanremo later today, so be sure to hang around and wait for that one later today. The interesting thing about the 12 rider game, the Classic Squad Game, is that there are limited transfers, so you get 24 transfers and there are 12 races. Of course, we go from Sanremo all the way through to Liège-Bastogne-Liège. So you're going to want to try and think strategically about where you're going to be using your transfers. Well, of course, you're going to want to be picking riders who are going to be not just competing in one race, but perhaps competing in multiple races down the line, because then you can save transfers that way rather than swapping in and out riders all the time, if you see what I mean. So speaking of that, riders who you're going to want to pick are guys who are going to be doing Sanremo, but also probably things like E3 and maybe Flanders as well. Pogacar, Van der Poel, Pedersen, Wout van Aert, Biniam, Girmay are all good picks. Mohoric as well. All these guys, you're going to want to try and look at their schedule to try and see who's going to be doing lots of races down the line, not just Milano Sanremo. So somebody like Alaphilippe, for example, probably isn't a good choice, and neither is Caleb Ewan, because they're just going to be doing the Sanremo, and then I'm not really sure what their schedule is, but Alaphilippe won't be doing like an E3 or a Dwars Doors, for example. I think he's just going to go and do Flanders. So trying to get those guys in the intermediate kind of semi-classics as well is really important. You could also put guys in like Christophe Laporte. He's a good one to be picking as well. Generally, the quick-step riders, just because they haven't looked too great in the last year or so in terms of the classics, I would be apprehensive of putting those guys on. Then you've got things like, of course, we've got Bleuge de Pan. That is the second race, so you're going to want to swap in quite a few sprinters. So guys like your Arnaud Delise, your Arnaud Demars, Jasper Philipsen would be a really good one as well. So you're going to want to swap in those sprinters for the second race, and then probably swap back to the riders that you had in this first iteration of your team. The best advice that I can really give you is that you'll notice here how these riders have the Milano Sanremo tag next to their name. However, these ones at the bottom don't, and you're probably wondering how did I do that? Because surely you can only pick the riders who are taking place in Sanremo, but that's not true. If you click here at the top for the click to get the full rider list, what you'll see is that the rider list is massively increased, and I'm not going to go through all the riders that you can go with, but the main thing that I want to take away from this is probably pick a lot of 4-point riders who are going to be getting assist points. So look for guys from Alpecin, Jumbo-Visma or UAE Team Emirates for Van der Poel, Wout van Aert and Tadej Pogacar respectively. So you got guys like Tobias Bayer, for example. You got a lot of guys from UAE in here, so Rui Oliveira, Ryan Gibbons, Mikel Bjerg, those are all 4-point riders. Dillier's a good one because he's doing Sanremo, but he's also going to be doing a lot of the Cobble Classics with Mathieu van der Poel, so that's a nice safe one to have all the way through your team. Casper van Uden is one which I found he'll be doing, I think he's doing Shelter Players, he might do Bleuge de Pan, we'll wait and see, but he's a very fast sprinter. Of course, we just saw him in Milano Torino. So my best advice is that try and fill out the rest of your team, not with riders who are doing Sanremo, but with riders who are going to be doing the Cobble Classics in the further races, or the Ardennes Classics, for example. These guys I probably wouldn't change around too much. What you're going to be wanting to do throughout the race, and the best strategy is really swapping out, say like a Pogacar, say you get to Bleuge de Pan, and you're like, okay, well I need some sprinters in here, so you go and pick in, you're going to put in Jasper Philipsen, and then you change, say, Van der Bosch to Tim Merlier or another sprinter like that. And then afterwards, you're going to want to swap Philipsen probably back to Pogacar, and then swap Merlier back to your 4-point rider. And you're going to want to swap in and out like that is the best way to get through. And that should and then you're going to want to try and preserve a lot of your transfers for when we make that switch between the Cobble Classics and the Ardennes Classics, because of course a lot of these guys who are doing the Cobble Classics will not be doing the likes of a Liège or a La Flèche Wallonne, for example. So Be sure to save a good amount of transfers for when you make that transition between the two types of races, and I think you'll be just fine. But let me know what you are thinking, if there are any other tips or riders which perhaps you are thinking would be good for everybody else to know. Be sure to put that in the comments section, and all that is left to say is to stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video. Salut!